What we did in this study here is we started off with the idea to use classical tests that are usually also done in a clinic, like the semantic verbal fluency and a word learning test. Those tests are quite sensitive also to early cognitive changes. So we record patients doing those tasks remotely at home over the telephone. And then from those recordings, we extracted features, around 70 different features. Some of them are more temporal features, some of them are semantic features. For instance, to give you an example, from the semantic verbal fluency task, we can extract the semantic clustering and switching, the temporal aspects, how many words I've been naming close to each other in time, and the pauses, the length of the pauses, the frequency, et cetera, et cetera. So there are many, many, many different features that go into a composite score so that we can, for example, screen cognitively healthy from unhealthy. That's what we also try to do in the study. But we also have 3 subdomain scores that are combining some types of features. For example, the ones that are more covering the domain of memory. Then there's executive functioning, and then there is processing speed. And so we have a speech biomarker for cognition composite score and 3 subdomain scores. We did that in 4 different European cohorts here. Those cohorts were already ongoing. We just added on this phone call to this study. Again, it was very easy actually to put in place because it was a phone call that the patient can answer at home. It was automated, very important to say. So there was no real human interaction necessary. And then, yeah, there was this extraction pipeline I just described. And what we did is we wanted to try to establish a cutoff for this composite score, looking at those 4 different cohorts. Now, the cohorts were quite different. We are ranging from preclinical to more advanced memory clinic populations. But you can see that there is a cutoff around 0.4 on the composite score that can nicely distinguish healthy from cognitively impaired patients. I think in general, the area under the curve was around 0.75 or higher in the performance to distinguish between those groups based on the speech biomarker. The implementation in standard clinical practice, I think we're still far, unfortunately, from being this used in practice. This is now really coming from a research project. What I can say is that our technology is starting to being used in clinical trials for pre-screening. So even before the real screening in clinic, now pharma also thinks about how to increase the likelihood of getting the right people into the clinic for the further, and I would say more extensive screening procedure. Finding the right people, you need a tool that is very scalable. And I think ours is quite scalable. As I explained, it's an automated phone call that also the processing analysis pipeline is all automated. Yeah. That being said, I think in the clinic, I can see that definitely at the primary care level being very useful when, for example, a GP, so not a specialized, let's say, expert, neuropsychologist, but like somebody who's at the first frontline interaction with a person who might have some concern, doing this test to kind of decide if you have to go into further assessment or not, if you have to be referred or not, if you maybe qualify for a trial or qualify even for treatment, let's say like in the US. I think there is a big use and need also for those kind of scalable digital tools to screen for cognitive impairment. What needs to be done now is, of course, a lot of regulatory procedures to get to this, like getting certified. I mean, we are in the process of doing so. Also, FDA needs to approve your tool to be a diagnostic aid. And yeah, this is a long process, but I think many companies like us are now on its way, because that's the only way how you get into the clinical practice and the primary care, for example, field. And there is a need. I mean, I think there's no doubt about this. So I think, yeah, maybe 5 years from now, hopefully, there are the first solutions like that can be used and help to identify the right people and diagnose people earlier, potentially.